Right now, someone in your life can control you with a single sentence. Not because they're smarter, but because your brain is predictable. Humans run on scripts, and manipulators memorize those scripts like hunters studying prey. But there's a weapon, so psychologically destructive, it was removed from research labs: the Predictive Mind Disruptor. It breaks the brain's ability to forecast your next move, causing instant ego collapse. They can't attack what they can't read. This technique was banned for its destabilizing effects. But today, you'll learn it and walk through life impossible to manipulate. Every argument, betrayal, insult, and manipulation you've ever faced followed one hidden pattern: predictable brain loops. People don't react to you. They react to the version of you they expect. Once someone can predict your emotions, they can control them. That's why governments, military agencies, interrogators, and elite negotiators invest billions into behavioral prediction models. The most powerful force isn't intelligence. It's knowing the opponent's next move. But there exists one psychological hack that doesn't just dodge prediction, it destroys it. A technique so disruptive that subjects in early experiments showed panic, confusion, and ego collapse when exposed to it. Because once you learn this, no manipulator will ever know your next move, and nothing terrifies them more than a mind they can't calculate. Part 1. How the human brain predicts behavior. The human brain survives by creating reaction maps of everyone around it. Before someone even speaks to you, their mind is already running simulations, predicting how you talk, how you defend yourself, how you break, how you calm down. These internal maps decide whether they respect you, underestimate you, or secretly think they can control you. And once your map becomes predictable, you stop being a person in their eyes. You become a pattern. This is exactly why fake friends, manipulators, toxic relatives, and ego-driven people seem to know what hurts you. They rely on prediction accuracy. They can sense which words spark your anger, which tone triggers your insecurity, which silence makes you doubt yourself. Predictable people are easy to gaslight because the manipulator knows exactly when you'll panic, when you'll apologize, when you'll chase validation. Their entire strategy depends on something called expectation scripts. These are mental patterns they believe you will follow every time. If you always defend yourself when blamed, that becomes your script. If you always try to explain your feelings, that becomes your script. If you shut down when stressed, that becomes your script. Your whole identity gets reduced to a set of emotional reflexes they can press like buttons. Manipulators even rehearse responses in their mind. If I say this, they'll get offended. If I ignore them, they'll try harder. If I act disappointed, they'll apologize. These rehearsals help them locate your weakness points, the exact emotional spots where your reactions become predictable. This is why toxic people seem one step ahead. They aren't smarter, they've just studied your patterns. But here's the twist. Prediction is their only weapon. Remove predictability, and their power collapses. This is where the entire system breaks. This is where their control slips. This is where their ego cracks under pressure. Because when you use the Predictive Mind Disruptor, the reaction map becomes useless. Their expectation script fails. Their mental rehearsals fall apart. Suddenly, they're facing a version of you they cannot read, cannot prepare for, and cannot manipulate. And nothing threatens a manipulative mind more than a person who stops behaving the way they expect. But all of this collapses when you use the disruption hack. Part 2. The Predictive Mind Disruptor. Full brain hack revealed. The Predictive Mind Disruptor is one of the rare psychological techniques that doesn't attack a person's emotions. It attacks their certainty. Predictability is the oxygen of manipulative minds. They need to know when you'll react, how you'll react, and why you'll react. This hack suffocates that oxygen in seconds. It was banned from early behavioral studies because it destabilized subjects so deeply that researchers called it a controlled ego collapse. Here's how it works, step by step. Step 1. Emotional freeze frame. This is where you shut down the exact reaction they're expecting. If they insult you, they expect anger. If they boast, they expect envy. If they guilt trip, they expect apology. You give them nothing. No spike, no expression, no validation. Your stillness creates the first crack in their prediction loop. Their brain detects something is off, and that uncertainty triggers discomfort. Step 2. Pattern break. This is the moment you flip the script. You do the opposite of what they prepared for. If they expect you to defend yourself, you ask a calm question instead. If they expect you to explain, you observe. If they expect you to collapse emotionally, you stay collected. Pattern break is powerful because it interrupts their mental script violently. Their brain has to erase its expectations and recalculate your identity from scratch. Step 3. Delay and redirect. You slow the moment down. A 2 to 4 second pause before you respond. A calm, silent breath. A neutral stare while they wait for the reaction that will never come. This delay destabilizes their nervous system. Humans expect immediate emotional responses. When they don't receive them, their brain enters panic mode. The redirect, asking a question, shifting the topic, or focusing on logic, forces the conversation into your frame. Step 4. The cognitive blank effect. This is where the real damage happens. Your silence or controlled calm creates a mental blank screen in their head. Their brain can't process you because your behavior doesn't match their prediction map. This forces their brain to rewrite its entire script about you, placing you in a category they don't know how to attack. The unpredictable, the uncontrollable, the unmanipulable. Early psychology labs tested this technique to observe dominance shifts. Subjects exposed to unpredictable responses showed fall, rapid ego collapse; pull, loss of emotional strategy; pull, spikes in anxiety; DI, increased submission. It created fear, confusion, and, ironically, respect. Because unpredictability signals power, the deepest kind there is. And once you master this hack, no manipulator will ever stand on steady ground around you again. Part 3. What happens? Inside their brain, neuroscience breakdown. To understand why the predictive mind disruptor is so powerful, you need to know what happens inside the other person's brain the moment their expectations collapse. Human beings rely on prediction error minimization, a system designed to keep life predictable, safe, and familiar. When someone thinks they know how you'll react, their brain prepares a response in advance. But when your behavior doesn't match that expectation, the brain triggers a violent internal alarm called a prediction error surge. This surge is uncomfortable, even painful, because the brain suddenly loses control over the situation. The first thing that happens is a dopamine drop. Dopamine isn't just a reward chemical. It's also responsible for confirming the brain's predictions. When a prediction is correct, dopamine rises. When the prediction fails, dopamine collapses. That drop creates confusion, frustration, and a desperate need to reestablish control. It's why manipulators look stunned, irritated, or thrown off when you stop reacting in your usual patterns. Next, the amygdala fires threat signals. The amygdala doesn't analyze logic. It analyzes danger. To the brain, unpredictability equals threat. This triggers micro-survival responses, tightening of the jaw, defensive body language, sudden silence, raised voice, or an intense need to push harder emotionally. This is why people get angry when you don't react, or strangely quiet, or unexpectedly respectful. Their brain is recalculating its position around you. Then comes the cognitive dissonance spike, the moment they question everything they assumed about you. Why didn't you react? Why are you calm? What changed? Their mental model of you fractures. The old you they depended on to predict your reactions no longer exists. And finally, their brain categorizes you as uncontrollable. Unpredictable people cannot be manipulated. They cannot be emotionally steered. They cannot be placed into fixed narratives. Once the brain labels someone as uncontrollable, it shifts from dominance to caution, sometimes even submission. This is why the predictive mind disruptor doesn't just confuse people. It reprograms the way they see you, permanently. Part 4. Scenarios, where the hack destroys manipulation instantly. The predictive mind disruptor is not theory. It's a weapon you can use in real situations where manipulators rely on your predictability. Here are 5 real-life scenarios showing how quickly this hack shatters their control. Scenario 1. The fake friend who tries to trigger you. Fake friends love emotional reactions. Maybe they tease you, compare you, or throw backhanded compliments just to spark insecurity. Normally, they expect you to explain yourself or laugh awkwardly. But this time, you give them nothing, a calm, still face. No smile, no defense, no emotional spike. Their brain panics because the reward loop is gone. Your non-reaction quietly tells them, "You don't control my emotions anymore." Instantly, their ego loses its grip. Scenario 2. The argument, where they expect you to defend yourself. Manipulators plan arguments like chess moves. They accuse you, twist your words, or exaggerate a situation because they know you'll jump into defensive mode. That's the script. But when you don't defend, when you simply pause and ask, "What made you assume that?" the entire argument collapses. You shift from defending to leading. Your calm redirection forces them out of attack mode and into explanation mode. Once they're explaining themselves, the power flips instantly. Scenario 3. The person who tested you publicly. Some people test you in front of others to gain social power. A joke at your expense, a sarcastic comment, a challenge. They expect embarrassment or anger. Instead, you give them slow, silent eye contact and a calm, controlled answer. No emotional spike, no visible reaction. The room feels the shift. The tester loses momentum because their attack didn't land. Your unpredictability elevates your social position. People respect the one who cannot be shaken. Scenario 4. Someone trying to humiliate you. Humiliation survives on emotional submission. They want you to shrink, apologize, or show insecurity. But you break the entire humiliation cycle by refusing to play the part. You maintain calm posture, neutral tone, and simply say, "Are you finished?" This destroys their script. Their power evaporates because humiliation cannot exist without your emotional participation. Scenario 5. The silent dominance move. This is the purest form of the disruptor. You pause. You watch. You let them wait for a reaction that never comes. Their brain spirals trying to decode your silence. They feel exposed, unsure, and suddenly very small. Silence becomes your sword, and unpredictability becomes your shield. This is how manipulation dies, not through aggression, but through control. Part 5. How you become untouchable. The identity shift. When you start using the Predictive Mind Disruptor consistently, something deeper happens than just shutting down manipulators. Your identity rewires itself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must react, explain, defend, or emotionally participate in every situation. Unpredictability becomes your new default, and that changes the way your brain processes social pressure. Instead of relying on emotional loops, the constant cycle of approval, reassurance, and reaction, your mind shifts into independence. You no longer need validation to feel grounded. You no longer need someone else's emotional response to feel secure. This shift creates what psychologists call a power ambiguity aura. People can't decode you. They can't guess your next move. They can't tell what affects you, if anything does. And the unknown creates respect, sometimes even fear, because nothing is more intimidating than a person who doesn't react the way the world expects. The social advantages are enormous. Number 1, you don't reveal weakness. When you stop reacting, people can't see where you're vulnerable. They lose their emotional leverage. Number 2, you don't reveal intentions. No one knows what you're planning, thinking, or feeling unless you choose to reveal it. Control shifts entirely to you. Number 3, you become unreadable. And unreadable people automatically gain psychological dominance. Humans respect what they cannot predict because unpredictability signals strength, self-control, and mental maturity. Over time, this identity shift reshapes your presence. You walk differently. You speak differently. You think differently. People sense that your emotions are not open for manipulation, that your mind has a locked door only you can open. The world respects people who don't follow emotional scripts because scripts are for the average, the predictable, the easily controlled. You, on the other hand, step into a category reserved for those who move with intentional calm. A category where pressure doesn't shake you, judgment doesn't guide you, and manipulation doesn't reach you. This is how you become untouchable, not by being harder, but by being unreadable. Part 6. The Dark Side. Why this hack was banned. The Predictive Mind Disruptor is powerful. So powerful that early psychological experiments were forced to shut it down. Researchers discovered that when subjects were repeatedly exposed to unpredictable behavior loops, many began experiencing identity distortion. Their brains couldn't establish stable prediction patterns, so they temporarily lost their sense of emotional grounding. Some participants showed signs of cognitive paralysis, a frozen state where the mind can't decide how to respond because none of its usual reaction pathways work anymore. This is why the technique was labeled dangerous, not because it harmed the user, but because it could completely destabilize the person on the receiving end. When used without restraint, the hack makes manipulation almost effortless. You can redirect arguments, collapse someone's confidence, or shatter their emotional scripts with minimal effort. And while that might sound powerful, it comes with heavy consequences. If used recklessly, this technique can break trust, damage relationships, and create emotional distance even with people who genuinely care about you. Unpredictability is a weapon, but like any weapon, it can cut the wrong way when used without control. That's why psychological boards banned this method from formal experiments. It was too effective at power shifting, too efficient at destabilizing the human ego, and too tempting for the wrong personality types. Without ethical boundaries, anyone could use it to dominate rather than defend. So here's your warning. Use this brain hack for protection, not control. Deploy it against manipulation, not innocence. Master it with intention, not impulse. Because at the end of the day, power is only respected when it's controlled. And remember the rule they teach in every discipline of psychology and strategy. Power without restraint becomes corruption. Part 7. How to practice the hack daily. Mastering the Predictive Mind Disruptor isn't about dramatic moments or life-changing events. It's built through small, consistent habits that retrain your brain to stop running on old emotional software. These daily drills will condition your mind to break patterns automatically, giving you the ability to stay unreadable, strategic, and firmly in control. Exercise 1. The Reaction Pause Drill. The first step is simple. Delay your emotional response by 1 to 3 seconds. Most people react instantly out of habit, fear, or instinct, and that micro moment is exactly how manipulators read you. A 3-second pause interrupts your brain's automatic circuits and forces the prefrontal cortex to take over. Practice this in low-stakes situations, messages, conversations, disagreements, even compliments. Those few seconds give you the power to choose your response, not hand it over. Exercise 2. The Silent Observation Technique. Next, spend the day noticing patterns without reacting to them. Pay attention to the expectations people place on you. Your tone, your timing, your decisions, the way you nod or agree automatically. These invisible scripts are what make you predictable. As you observe them, you'll begin seeing how often others rely on your consistency to influence you. Awareness gives you leverage. Exercise 3. The Pattern Break Switch. Once you've identified your predictable habits, choose one and flip it. If you respond quickly, slow down. If you over-explain, stay brief. If you always say yes, try saying, "Let me think." Doing the opposite of your automatic reaction confuses the mental model people have built about you. More importantly, it teaches your brain that you control the pattern, not the other way around. Exercise 4. The Identity Anchor. Finally, choose the version of yourself no one can predict. Define the traits you want to operate from. Calm, strategic, unreadable, selective, decisive. That becomes your internal identity anchor. When you act from that identity, even under stress, people feel the shift immediately. You stop being reactive. You become intentional. And over time, that identity builds the inner engine of effortless dominance, the kind that cannot be manipulated, coerced, or decoded. This is how the Predictive Mind Disruptor becomes your natural state. When you apply the Predictive Mind Disruptor consistently, you stop living as a predictable version of yourself. You become quieter, sharper, harder to read, and the world responds to that shift instantly. People can't manipulate what they can't decode, and your emotional center becomes something only you can access. But understand this clearly. Power without discipline becomes a weapon, not a strategy. Use this ability to protect your mind, not to play games with others. Master this, and no one will ever control your emotions again.